Yep, had a chance to sit down with the former whip and compare leadership roles then and now.
Well, I don't like to get into this notion of comparing leadership. The job is hard enough without somebody like me coming along and evaluating somebody's leadership. All I can say is things. I really don't understand the difference, but um, it just seems to me that cohesiveness just isn't there. There's something there that is driving a wedge amongst the Republican members of the conference. The Democrats are very disciplined. I mean, they march lockstep. All they care about is making sure that as much as they can, that the Republican agenda, whatever it is not accomplished. But I don't know, what's happening on the Republican side, and I kind of, the contract with America was an agenda. We went to the American people and said, look, you give us an opportunity to be in the majority. You give us the power of the purse, and these are the things we will do. And those things reflected our philosophy and our principles. And we were able to march forward. If I had any criticism at all, I think it's the lack of an agenda. We had an agenda every year for the 12 years I was in leadership, one way or another. Every year we started out the year with a list of things that we wanted to accomplish that year. And that list was put together by working with the members. We'd go on retreat, and we would propose an agenda. They would add to it, take away from it. But when we started and opened up this House of Representatives, we knew where we wanted to head where we wanted to go that year. And maybe it's just the lack of an agenda, like the contract with America, that doesn't keep us together.
So that prompts the question. Is it time for a second contract with America?
I think it would be well advised. It's probably too late for the midterms, but maybe for the next election cycle. Well, it's never too late to do something if you want to get it done. But the point is that what I see in the polls going into these midterms is that, yes, people are very discouraged with Obama and discouraged with the Democrats. They're just the right track, wrong track is way against the Democrats, and we're going to win. We're going to win seats. I think we're going to win the Senate. We're going to pick up seats in the House. But what those polls also say is that people are a little discouraged or disgruntled with the current Republicans. And it's time for the Republicans to stand up and say, this is who we are, this is what we're for, and maybe another contract with America would work. Because the American people, they're going to vote against the Democrats, but if you want to maximize these elections, you want them to vote against the Democrats but vote for the Republicans.
And Tom, within this Republican majority, there is a rift between the establishment Republicans and the grassroots conservatives. Can that rift be healed?
Well, I think it can, with some leadership. I think the party is struggling with itself, and that's why I'm out talking about a spiritual revival and a revolution for the Constitution. I believe that what can pull us all together is the Constitution. And we can talk about all these other issues, but if we can become the party of the Constitution, the American people, I think, will rally around that. And it's not just the Constitution. The Constitution is nothing more than, as you know, the manifestation of the Declaration of Independence, which lays out the rights that we enjoy and that the Constitution protects. But the point is that the Republican Party for the last couple of years has been struggling for its own soul, and and sometimes that's really good, and ultimately it will manifest itself, I hope, into a unified party. But even within our party, we have big government Republicans and constitutional Republicans, and I'm hoping that the constitutional Republicans will win in the end.
You mentioned the Constitution and the protections we enjoy under that Constitution, yet Travis County, Texas, has not been a place where it seems that your constitutional rights or those of current Governor Perry have really been recognized. What is it about Travis County and Austin, Texas, that engenders such hostility against conservative Republicans?
Well, first of all, Austin, Texas is as liberal a city as San Francisco, if you will. We call it the People's Republic of Austin. As liberal a city as San Francisco, if you will. We call it, and usually when you find that, you find the left. It's like an island in Texas. That's just as blue as you can get. And they had a district attorney that wasn't embarrassed to abuse his office. It wasn't just me. I'm not complaining, but you saw Rick Perry, and he also indicted Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson. He even indicted some of his Democrat enemies. He used that office to go after his political enemies. But it's bigger than that. It's the criminalization of politics is a political strategy that the left uses. It's right there in Saul Alinsky's book, Rules of a Radical, where if you can't beat them at the ballot box, you put them in jail, put them in their grave, and dance on their grave. And it's a working strategy. I can tell you a lot of people that won't run for office because they won't put their family through what I've been through, or leaders won't stick their head up because they're scared to death that they'll get it knocked off. It is a concerted, a manipulated strategy of politics that we don't use, and I'm not advocating that we use it. The left uses it, and we allow it to happen.
Tom, you just mentioned Saul Alinsky. There's a community organizer in the White House. Is Alinskyism on the ascendancy?
Oh, sure. Yeah, they're going. I mean, because they've been able to get away with it for me, and now with Rick Perry, they're after Scott Walker in Wisconsin with all kinds of rogue district attorneys and investigators going after the governor of Wisconsin. I can name you office holder after office holder where they're going after them on these flimsy laws, or twisting the laws, or abusing the process. And ever since Obama came into office, and he's as left as you could get. He's one of those radical leftists. We all know that. Marxist, I call him. He is a Marxist. He was raised by Marxist grandparents. He was raised in that community. He is a Marxist. And the left has accelerated since he's been president. That's the bad news. The good news is the American people are seeing it up front and personal. And I think that's why you saw the election in 2010, and you'll see it again in this election. The people are starting to reject this leftist progressivism that they know that isn't America, is not constitutional, and they're rejecting it. And that's encouraging to me.
And yet here's the irony. You say what you say about the current president, yet there's a vote today on the House floor to authorize this commander-in-chief to use military force again in the Mideast.
Yeah, well, you caught between a rock and a hard place. You got an anti-war president, an anti-war Secretary of State, an anti-war Secretary of Defense, who are being dragged to the table to fight terrorists all over the world and fight this war on terror that they won't even admit is going on. And it puts America in a very tenuous situation. We want to go after these guys, but can we trust Obama and John Kerry and Hagel to do the right thing in getting these terrorists? So it's a dilemma.
Well, there you hear it from Tom DeLay, who during his days as whip didn't think of himself as the hammer, but as the farmer growing the vote. And the new leadership yesterday grew enough votes to get that bipartisan measure passed. More ahead, our special coverage from Washington continues.